So I saw a video earlier today, and I'm gonna try to get a lot in one video. Alright, 1. Ancestor work is not a requirement to be a witch. I feel like I have to start out with that. 2. There are multiple kinds of ancestor work. It's not just ancestor veneration and ancestor worship. A lot of it is confrontational. 3. You can work with your ancestors even if you don't know them. Most people, the family trees that they personally know, don't go that far back. So whether you just don't know them, are adopted, anything like that, you can work with your ancestors. Or, there are many different kinds of ancestors, not just your blood ancestors. And in the case of your blood ancestors, for the majority of it, they're inside you. They're in your blood. You're the one still kind of calling the shots. If people are interested, go see Jordan the Cedar Witch, and I may do videos on the different types of ancestors. Hope everyone is enjoying their equinox. This is a video on the different types of ancestors. The first is your blood ancestors, your most direct ancestors, the ancestors that actually make up your genetic code. Your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, all of your generations times 2. The next category is sometimes put into blood ancestors, but some traditions do treat them separately, and it is familial ancestors. You know, your uncles, your cousins, people who married into your family, that kind of thing. There is also communal ancestors. If you belong to a coven, a clan, an order, some of them have traditions that, you share ancestors, so there's that. But also, it tends to, there tends to be a certain amount of veneration there for people who founded it, people who are a part of your religion who are significant. So the next type of ancestors are literally just called the dead. Obviously not to be confused with the band. There's also other names, like the honored dead, the undying dead, things like that. And this is primarily used in a lot of traditions where if you are deceased, you're an ancestor. Like, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like, regardless of their relation to you, relevance to you, anything like that, they're an ancestor. There's also a case of divine ancestors, and there's a couple ways that goes about. A lot of people believe in, like divine inheritance, like, either metaphorically or literally being descended from a god. Also, certain mortals who attained godhood, apotheosis, whatever you want to call it, in some fashion. There's also, like I said, there's a lot of ways to go about this, like the Spartans literally believe they were made from blood of Ares. This can also be put into divine ancestry a bit, but there is also a practice, especially in a lot of your nature-based, your nature worship, etc. religions, of viewing the earth in of itself as an ancestor. Not necessarily deities of, though that can certainly be a case, but, the earth in of itself. In a lot of myths, in various ways, humans were created from the earth. And one way or another, arguably, we all were, scientifically and so forth. And that it helped us become what we are from whatever cells came on an asteroid. But yeah, in many myths, we were created from clay, dirt, that kind of thing, other naturally forming things from nature. So in a lot of traditions, it is indeed viewed as the earth in of itself as something of a central point ancestor. Now that you're aware of, different types of ancestors, probably not all of them, but at least, covers a good amount of them, how do you start? Well, you pick either a specific ancestor that you have good relationships with, or you try to address them as a whole. And there's various ways to do this, but a lot of people will have ancestral altars. How do you have an ancestral altar? Well, personally, mine is a tree in my backyard. Some people have a specific altar in their house. And you only need really a couple things. A glass of water and some representation of fire. You can use either a candle or an incense. You don't need both. You can also use one of those battery-powered candle things. If you're having it in a table in your house, I heavily suggest a white cloth, but from there, just start a conversation that can be as casual or formal as you want. If you are specifically either a Norse pagan, an Anglo-Saxon pagan, or any of the other Germanic pagans, there is another type of altar that you might be really interested in. It is called a horgur, or sometimes a hirg, which, forgive my pronunciation, foreign names, and I've mostly only read these, but effectively they're just stones stacked onto each other. There's a lot of different ways to do this, and it's not uniform. It can be as, large, small, simple as you want. There's no monolith on how to do this. And effectively, it's, just stones stacked up onto each other. And if you, do a Google search, some of them are really, artsy and obviously have like some kind of adhesive added to them. But yeah, this obviously doesn't just apply to, Norse and Anglo-Saxon pagans. If you have a specific path that uses a certain type of altar. So after you're comfortable with the ancestors that you are also comfortable with, there is going to be a time where confrontational ancestor work comes, and normally the minimum is a couple months to a year. And that is a rather generous minimum. But the confrontational ancestor work is not going to be easy, because you are going to realize that you yourself have negative things that you carry on from them. And the ways that you have benefited from their negativity in a lot of ways. If you're watching this on YouTube, my next video is going to be a guest appearance by Afro Spiritual, who is a great creator and specifically addresses white people talking to their ancestors, because that is a main concern I see.
This one is for my white practitioners and white folks when it comes to ancestral veneration, but also for ancestral healing and work. Take it what you will, do with it what you will. To my white folks, I understand for the most part y'all have ancestors that you do not want to work with. I get it. Trust me, I do. But there are things that you can actually do. If you watch The Legend of Korra, in the show The Legend of Korra, Avatar Korra actually had the Avatar cycle broken and beaten out of her. And later in the show, she reignited and restarted the Avatar cycle. You, in essence, could do the same as well when it comes to your own ancestral line. If you put in the work in this life to undo the systemic and institutional system that was put in place by your forefathers, you can actually redeem your bloodline and restart your ancestral line and put it on a good foot. Remember, what you do affects 7 generations, both forward and backwards. You are an ancestor to someone in the future.